Sports Lounge 219. Charlie Hildebrand is here. It's a Memorial Day weekend. So congratulations, everybody. Memorial Day weekend. Charlie Hildebrand, clean shaven, healthier than ever. Are we over the sickness?
Oh, mostly. I think there's a little lingering here and there, but for all intents and purposes, it's gone. There will not be any stretches like last week where all of a sudden I had to turn and wipe my face of all the
mucus,
sinus tears coming out of my body.
Great trivia last week, back and forth battles. They were terrific. Nathan Stacken, we'll see his trip from Duluth here, see if he wants to recap that and get all excited about the Nashville Predators against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Stanley Cup Finals start tomorrow. Twins are playing against Tampa Bay, another game that's taken nearly 4 hours. Indy 500, we had an Asian win it. I don't know if there's been any Asians winning the Indy 500. Tons of stuff. You got the NBA Finals starting sometime next month. It's a week off between games. Cleveland lost a game. They won in 5. Series is scheduled June 1st, Game 7, if need be. June 17th, a 17-game final, 17-day final for 7 games. Seems a bit excessive, playing no more than 3 games over the course of a Monday through Sunday week. So that's what they've got planned right there. Charlie, third time in a row. This has never happened before. Golden State, Cleveland. This is the rubber match. Your expectations for this series? I'm pretty pumped about it.
I'm excited about it. I kind of get the sense it's going to be a bit of a letdown. I think there will more, because last year it went 7. The only game that was close was Game 7, right? All the others were decided by double digits.
There was a 30-pointer in there as well, so not the best of finals, but people will remember that Game 7.
I think this year, there will be more close games this year, but I just get the sense that Golden State's going to win in 5. Now, this is just going to be the case of, teams. A lot of times I don't like to buy into the we weren't motivated before, but we really are now. So most of the times I don't buy it, but I think I maybe sort of buy it this year with Golden State, where, they were up 3-1, had a chance to win in 5, blew the next 2 games after that, lost the whole series. They basically, I understand that they had a worse regular season record last year, but I think they're better this year still. They've certainly been better in the playoffs because they have not lost a playoff game yet. I think with the addition of Kevin Durant, I think you can make a pretty strong case that even though he won't win the MVP, that LeBron is the best player in the NBA.
Sure.
But I'm not too far of a limb saying that. I think you could also make a case that Golden State has the second and third best player in the NBA in Kevin Durant and Steph Curry, with I can't believe
Klay Thompson.
His name now, but Klay Thompson possibly being in the top 10 also. Now, I saw someone, I think on ESPN, your forfeited ESPN person, Ryan Russillo, something that was kind of interesting a week ago, that when you say who's in the top 10, there's 19 guys you can make a case for being in the top 10. Or is that when you say the top 5?
That's pretty concrete.
Amount of guys. Yeah, but when you start getting to past 7 or 8 or so, there's a whole bunch of guys. The difference between 8 and 9 and 16 and 17 is very small. You could maybe make a case. I think you could make a case that Kyrie is one of the 10 best players in the NBA also for Cleveland. But I think that there's just more. There's more good players for Golden State, and I think that after kind of embarrassing themselves last year with the way it ended, I think that they will just be more focused and dialed in addition to also having Kevin Durant now, who makes them even more difficult to stop and defend. And then Cleveland, well, Cleveland's plenty good. Their defense just hasn't been very good this year. And when your defense isn't very good, I don't know if you want to be playing Golden State.
Even against good defensive teams like Utah and the Spurs, they score 120, 130 points during these playoffs. Last year, Golden State started with a 15-point win. Game 2 was a nearly 30-point victory. Game 3 in Cleveland won that by 30 points. And then Golden State came back with a 11-point win, and then Draymond Green was suspended for a game. So last year, I thought Golden State would run them off the floor. It was looking really good through 4 games. I, like you, would agree. I think a lot of people are probably going to pick 6 or 7 games. Most people are going to go Golden State. I'll go Golden State in 5. I think they run them off the floor again. Whatever that factor would be of losing last year, when they probably feel they were the better team. I think Golden State wins this one pretty easily. I'll go as far as to say there'll be no games decided by single digits, and there'll be a 25, 30-point loss in there somewhere for Cleveland.
So basically,
I think it's going to be a goddamn.
The same, except I just think a couple of the games will be close. You don't think any of them will be really close?
No. And then I think Cleveland gets one at home, and I think in that game they probably win by 15 points or so. I think it's going to be a lot like the second Spurs Heat series. I think that was the last games for LeBron in Miami. The year before they went to Game 7, Spurs were probably a better team. Spurs probably should have won that series, but Ray Allen hit a shot in Game 6 that forced overtime, and then they won it in Game 7. I think it's going to be a lot like that.
Offensive rebound.
Yeah, Jesus Christ, yeah. And I think this last year, Game 7, I think Golden State was better, but Cleveland had the best player, so Cleveland wins. I think this year it's a 5-game series, like that Spurs series. Well, I think it's a 5-game series. Spurs killed Miami that year. I think Golden State kills Cleveland this year. They've won, I think, 26-27, 27-28. And just like last year, they were great at home. They lost like 1 or 2 home games. And I just could not see, to beat Golden State in a playoff series, you need to beat them twice at home. Because not only are they the best team, the best home team, they're also the best road team. Golden State's winning a game on your home court. You just have to accept that fact. You're going to give up a game at home against Golden State. So because of that, you have to beat Golden State twice in Golden State. Cleveland, they did that last year, and that's what they needed to do. I don't see that happening this year. They struggled like they did against Indiana, who isn't very good. Struggled like they did against Boston, for Christ's sake, for about 4 quarters there. That was a little bit embarrassing. What do you make of that? What was it, Game 3 in Cleveland? They were up by 16 and a half. They were up 21 in the third, and somehow Boston comes back, and they outscore them by over 20 points with like 18 minutes, the final 18 minutes of the second half. Then they're up by like 10 at the half, so over like a 4-quarter stretch, over almost a game stretch of about 3 quarters, Boston outscored Cleveland by 30. I don't get that. I don't get that.
I can't explain Game 4 and how Cleveland. I think Game 3. Like, I don't want to say it was completely fluky, but I think you can sort of chalk it up at least a little bit to Boston losing their best player in Isaiah Thomas, and it just being like, oh, well, okay, this series is over. We can just go through the motions, and we're going to throttle them. And in that sense, it's not the college football playoffs or the NCAA basketball playoffs. The one game they lost ended up not mattering because it was a series, and I think it was just sort of like, oh, well, this is over already. We can do whatever we want, and it won't matter. And they sort of, took their foot off the gas pedal, and ultimately in the series it didn't matter, but I think it certainly didn't look good.
LeBron's made
the next game with the slow start. I don't know.
Yeah.
You would think that after game three, where they kind of collapsed, they'd come out hot in game four. So I can't explain the start to game four. I don't know.
LeBron's made the finals for 7 straight years. I think this streak can go as high as maybe 12. I think he's, 32 right now. I think he could make the finals for the next 5 years because I don't see anybody in the East putting up a fight at all. How far do you
Boston
think
will
this
have
can
to
go?
do something with those draft picks.
We'll
In
see.
their tournament, either draft the right guys or trade for the right guys.
How far can you see this streak going? 7 this year, assuming Cleveland keeps everything intact and are healthy. Could this be 5 more years? Could this somehow get 12 years in a row, the same man in the finals?
I'm going to say it gets to 9.
2
Going to
more.
happen. Either the people from Cleveland are going to leave, whether that's LeBron or other guys, or it'll just be bad luck where they just lose. I
Or
don't
an
know.
injury?
Maybe the Wizards somehow bring in somebody really good to take the Wizards to the next step, or the Celtics play their cards right. I think that, like, I'll give them that they can do it again next year, but man, let's take away the fact that he changed teams in there. That would make it, if he goes next year, that would be
8 in a row.
4 straight years with, but no,
Yes.
it'd be
Yep.
4 straight years in Cleveland, right?
Yes.
And then if I'm giving them the next one after that also to get to 9, that'd be 5 straight years. I think it would just, to make it to the finals, 6 straight years
Same
with
team?
the same team is incredibly difficult. And I think it'll go further than 7. It could get to 12. I think for it to get to 12,
You're going to have to switch teams?
they would need some help. Either he'd have to switch teams, or I think that the teams in the East would have to just continue to be dumb and suck and mess up, and the West just be way, way, way better. I mean, the West might continue to be better, but I think if it gets to the point, where they're at least in the same ballpark, then that makes it a lot tougher.
Serious question. If LeBron went to Golden State next year, would they lose a game?
They would lose games, if only because there would be games where someone would be jealous or want the ball to do stuff because they feel like they're getting left out. But I think whenever there was a game of relevance, that there would be almost no chance for the other team to stop them. Because, I mean, you're talking about Klay Thompson being the 4th best player on your team. I get that this is sort of what his game is now, but to take it to an even further degree where it's like, no, your only job is to stand on the 3-point line and catch and shoot. You don't even need to go back and play defense if you don't want to. We'll just outlet it to you and you open 3-point shot. It'd be interesting. I think after a while we would get really sick of it. Like, if you remember last year, how everyone loved the Warriors, and then at some point in the playoffs, just kind of turned on them and didn't like them anymore. I think it would be like that, except it would be like in early January. People would just be like, I don't know, I don't like that.
I think it would be. I think they'd have a very good chance of maybe losing like 5 games, maybe. I think if you have said, okay, we're having 2 different teams here. LeBron, Thompson, Draymond Green, whoever else, you're the starters, or whatever way you want to do it. Durant, Curry, you're coming off the bench, so that at all times we have a starting NBA lineup caliber team out there at all times. And you bring in your second team, our first team may be better than our second team may be better than our first team. There's no way you can compete with us. And then in the fourth
You're
quarter,
saying
yeah,
doing the John Calipari Kentucky
Sure.
platoon system.
And then at the end of the game, fourth quarter, we have LeBron, Curry, Durant, Green, Thompson. That's my 5 out there in the fourth quarter. And you're not beating that because you're not beating that.
All fresher than most other guys, too,
Yeah.
because they've only played like 2 quarters instead of 3 quarters at that point in time.
That team right there wins the Olympic gold medal. That team does whatever it wants right there. So that'd be a little fun.
Yeah.
Apparently, the big rumor.
How would that team match up with the '92 Dream Team?
Now we're talking, boys.
I think that team right there is better than the '96 Dream Team. Now, stylistically, they're a lot different because I don't know if they have any like true big guy low post presence, but as we've sort of seen over the past few years with the NBA, the traditional center seems to kind of mean less and less each year. And because it turns out if you're really good at shooting and you can make half your threes, 50% of the time, that's going to be 3 points then. So that's a big deal.
I don't know what the starting lineup was. I would assume it was some combination of Magic Johnson as the point guard, Michael Jordan, maybe like a Patrick Ewing, David Robinson down low, with Charles Barkley in there mixed in somewhere, Scottie Pippen. So that's your top 6. That's pretty good. That'd be pretty good back and forth right there. Scottie Pippen guarding LeBron James. That'd be good. Draymond Green and Barkley punching each other in the face. Be good. Or maybe you'd have Jordan and Pippen against Durant and LeBron. That'd be a fun little deal there. I got him in 5. I got Durant winning MVP, and then everybody can accept the fact he moved to a better team last year to win multiple titles. What say you, Golden State, Cleveland, year 3? Your prediction
on who's going to win the MVP?
MVP and your finals pick.
Well, I think I already said Golden State in 5. And then I like Durant just because I don't want to copy yours. I think that's, if they win, there's a good chance it'll be him. I'll say, you know what? I'll say that Klay Thompson wins the MVP, that he has one of his. I don't think Klay Thompson's the best shooter in the NBA. I think it's Curry, but I think Thompson, when he gets like really, really, really hot, can maybe get hotter than Steph Curry can even get. And I'm going to say he has one of his, like, oh my God, he scored 50 on 19 shots or whatever. Well, he only had the ball for a total of 45 seconds. He has one of those games, and he has like 2 other where he scores 30. So I'm going to go with Klay Thompson as the MVP.
Saw the betting odds for Finals MVP, and he was not in the top 5. I think that would be a good value to put $10 on him and potentially win like $150. Because you're picking, okay, who's winning? I think Golden State's winning.
Not in the top 5?
No, because you got, I think Durant and Curry are the top 2 favorites because Golden State is the favorite. And guys coming off the winning team.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then LeBron and Kyrie.
Yeah, and some combination of that. And I think like Kevin Love was in there somewhere. It was a little surprising. Yeah. So I would, as far as a value pick, I'd say Klay Thompson would be a pretty good. Because Curry did not play well last year. So maybe Klay Thompson could be at least the second best player for Golden State.
You picked Kevin Durant as your MVP. And like I said, I think if Golden State wins, it's very likely that it would be in a large part because of him. Would you say, or maybe I shouldn't say would you say, because you probably would. Let me rephrase this. It's fair to say that of everybody in the NBA Finals this year, players and coaches and executives, nobody's got more pressure on him than Kevin Durant right now. Because if Golden State loses after picking up Durant, that this goes from like, oh, you made one finals with Oklahoma City and lost in, I think, 5 to the Heat. You couldn't even make the finals last year when you probably should have. Or maybe I shouldn't say probably, you could have. And now you're on like the super team of the NBA, and you run through the West and you still can't even win the NBA Finals.
I would agree with that. This is the finals for Durant to win the title. This is why he went to Golden State to do this. And Whether or not he does it, I hope he stays for a long time, because if he stays for many years, I think they will win many, many titles. If it's this year or next year or 2 years from now, because they've got a good thing going on. So this is the Kevin Durant finals here, and if Cleveland's going to win, I think LeBron's going to have to play like he did in the last 3 games of last year, and he played really well in the 4 games in which they beat Boston. So he played awful in the game they lost, and they won all the rest. So very exciting series. Big rumor at the NBA is apparently there's scuttlebutt of Chris Paul maybe going to the Spurs. Chris Paul can go somewhere. Spurs, where would you?
Interesting.
Where would you? Tony Parker's 35. Ginobili at 39 should hopefully retire. So really, we can kind of close that book on that Parker, Ginobili, Duncan era. And now we have a Kawhi Leonard, LaMarcus Aldridge, and we need a third piece. So why not have it be Chris Paul? He would have to take a significant pay cut of about $40-50 million over the length of a contract. A guy that
I was going to say, I thought I read somewhere that the Clippers can offer him $50 million more than anybody else, and that would be a lot of money to leave on the table.
Because with this new, I don't know if I said this, with the new CBA, and once this is in full effect, we're going to see 5-year contracts worth $200 million. So guys will be making $40 million a year. That'll be about the max deal. So get ready to shit your pants about that. That's an extraordinary amount of money. So San Antonio needs a third guy. Chris Paul going there. Where would that put how close would they get to knocking off Golden State if they add him?
I think it's safe to say that the Spurs could add any one player that is not currently in the NBA Finals right now. And that they wouldn't pass the Warriors on paper. But I think if they add Chris Paul, also assuming that, Kawhi Leonard and LaMarcus Aldridge are healthy, because, unfortunately, Kawhi hurt himself in the Western Conference Finals. But I think that it goes from the Warriors are easily going to win this to I don't know. It might take 6, it might go 7, and if it goes that far. I think that makes the West more interesting. But I also don't like the Spurs and kind of hope that they lose. So I don't want them to go to the Spurs, kind of. But I think that it would make it would more solidify the Spurs as the biggest opposition to the Golden State Warriors. It might be a little like mid-2000s Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, the other guy's still better. This guy is still probably their biggest competition now.
Chris Paul signed a 5-year, $107 million contract. He, what do we have here? He has an early termination option this offseason, so he will do that because he will make a significant more amount of money. I think he's set to make $24 million this year. He will opt out. Sign-in trades are interesting. I don't know if you could do a sign-in trade. Boston, that'd be a good little get for them. They give a bunch of picks to get Chris Paul, who I don't think is young. He is 32, so you're on the downside of things here. So be interesting to see. Chris Paul would probably be the biggest.
He's older than I thought he was. I thought he was 29.
I'm not a huge fan. He's a Hall of Famer. Hasn't won anything. Not entirely his fault, but if he probably goes to the Lakers there a few years ago, maybe him and Kobe probably win a title. But Chris Paul would be a good little get.
Knowing that he's 32, I'm going to still say the same thing I said, but instead of solidifying the Spurs for the next 4 years, it's okay, well, we got this 2-year window. Yep. And we really need to find a way to beat Golden State once in this 2-year window.
Another guy whose career is about over. Get some numbers on him right here. He's only 31 years old, so he's younger than Christopher Paul. Had his worst year of his career this year, basically up towards his rookie year. He had 13 and a half points, nearly 12 rebounds. That's really good. He's played for 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 seasons. He has made $170 million. He signed a 3-year,
Zach Randolph.
No, he signed a 3-year, $70 million deal in the offseason, so he's due 23 and a half next year, 20, almost 24 in 2 years. He's with the Atlanta Hawks. It's his 4th team. His name is Dwight Howard. I find
Dwight Howard, interesting NBA career.
I find it quite interesting that when him and Nash went to the Lakers to try to do something and Nash wasn't healthy and everybody hated Dwight Howard, it was interesting. Right around that time is when the shift of the NBA started with the three-pointers. 2012, 2013, then we started with all this three-pointers, and basically Dwight Howard and his position and his skill set became obsolete. So when people start to say, why is this guy falling off? I mean, he was with Houston, 19 and 13 for points and rebounds, pretty good. Always good rebounder. He actually averaged 15 rebounds this year, 16 and 15. Those are insane rebounding numbers. But three-pointers, or what would you attribute just his downfall of just being basically a non-factor, even putting up 15, 20 points and 15 rebounds a game?
I would say 50% of it is the three-pointers. 30% of it is that he's getting older and he's in his 30s, and that it seems like the taller you get, like the quicker it kind of comes to when you get pushed out, and that a lot of the classic centers like Kareem and Wilt Chamberlain, some of them played later in their career, just because they were so, especially like Kareem, not because he was physically dominant, just because he had that hook shot that nobody could stop. Mm-hmm. Even though I think, you see in the mid 80s, it's like, ooh, he doesn't look very good out there. So 50% the three-pointer, 30% getting older while being a 7-footer, and 20% that combination of maybe not a great teammate, probably didn't have the drive and the desire to be as good as he could have been. I would say those 4 factors in that order of why nobody would be overly excited unless they were one of the bottom 5 teams in the NBA right now.
13 points, 12 rebounds this year, not 15. So, yeah, he's good for what he does, but what he does, people don't need anymore.
And it makes sense that he still rebounds well as these, centers get,
close to the basket.
A little thinner, a little shorter, and play more outside, that he's just better at getting rebounds down low.
His numbers are comparable to years past. His points are dropping off, but what he does now, teams don't need that. That's not a skill set that teams need. So Atlanta can pay him around $50 million for the next 2 years. We both like Golden State in 5. Stacken's not here yet. Probably waiting for the end of this Twins game. 5-4 in the 9th. Stanley Cup starts tomorrow night. Nashville.
Right. Before, I've got one other NBA thing.
What do we got?
And this is more just like a slight complaint on my part. And that's more that it's me predicting this. Just because it seems like we've gotten to like this point as an American public where like everything's the best or the win. Either, Rick Bobby, Talladega Nights, you're either first or you're last. Mm-hmm. That I am already not looking forward to whichever team loses the NBA Finals. It's Cleveland. You only won it once, and you got really lucky to win it. I can't believe that. Maybe you shouldn't have even won it last year. You guys aren't that good. Or if Cleveland wins, it's going to be, I don't know, Golden State, blip on the radar, aren't any good after all. So severe of like the backlash of having the goal to only be the second best team in the NBA instead of the best. And I get the sense that like I don't remember a lot of it when Golden State won the first one because the Cavs was basically LeBron by himself out there. There was a whole bunch of it last year. I would imagine that there will possibly be even more of it this year. Where I would say ultimately take a deep breath.
Both teams
are really good.
Yeah.
Maybe the NBA Finals again next year also.
Just so happens there's that one other team out there that can maybe beat them. And that may happen once in a while. Every game will start at 8 o'clock Central Time except games 2 and games 7. Those are Sunday night games an hour earlier at 7 o'clock. Twins possibly going to extra innings. Twins pissing your pants, shitting your pants, giving up a 5-3 lead in the 9th. Good job there. So they're playing.
Hey, they got a big win yesterday, though, thanks to your buddy Dozier.
Look at my buddy Dozier, home run. Probably going to need another one here. So they're playing Thursday, Sunday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Thursday, Sunday is the schedule. So I have to wait until Thursday. When we talk to you next, they'll have done one game. So we may well do a goddamn finals preview next week as well because there'll be one game in and Golden State likely to win that game right there. Average ticket from what I'm seeing here, somewhere between $500 or so. Let's say you would be in the area of whatever finals matchup is going on, and it's a good finals matchup, which you would not mind attending. How much would you, and let's assume that it's a Game 6 or a Game 7, a game of some significance in which one of the teams are likely to clinch, so you can see the final game. How much would you pay for a ticket to this game, any other game of note? Maybe not a football game, a series game. You're not guaranteed to see the winner, but there might be a chance to see the clinching game.
I don't know if I'd go $500 for just about anything at this juncture in my life. It would have, if it was like, I'm gonna cheat a little bit. Let's say that Golden State won the first series in 7 games, and 5 of the games were great. And last year, Cleveland won, but instead of only one of the games being good, like 4 of them were good. If it was game 6 or 7 this year, I'd maybe go like $200. I think that would be about the most that I could go at this juncture. Now, if it was also close, I would be like, hey, since it's so close, work, do you want me to cover this game? And then see if I can go for.
There you go.
How about you? How much would you be willing to spend?
Well, here's what I had planned. I have to cover a Mitchell baseball game in Omaha in 2 weeks. So no show, possibly a show, no show in 2 weeks. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, come back Sunday. The plan was to go from Omaha, go down to Nashville for a week after that. And Game 6 of the finals would have been right around when I would have been there. And Nashville was making run with the hockey, and it would have been nice to see the hockey game, Game 6. So I would have maybe won a couple out, probably similar to you. A couple $100 maybe. I like Pittsburgh. Nashville's good, so I probably would have done that. About the same. $500
is a lot of money.
That's too much
for just one ticket. And like especially when if you start including, I mean, I know that you said if it was close by. If it's not close by and you start talking about like travel and hotel and food and meals and all that stuff, that gets really expensive really quickly.
Hockey, Pittsburgh, Nashville, matchup I wanted. I like that matchup. I'll watch parts of these games. Pittsburgh, Nashville, literally the last team in the playoffs, even on the east side. I think they are the 16th seed of all the 16 teams. And Pittsburgh trying to win it back-to-back for the first time in 20 years for any team. Does this intrigue you? Does this interest you? Is there a good storyline for you? There's lots of yellow. There's a stalwart in Pittsburgh. There's a new team in Nashville. Nashville seems to love their hockey. What do you think of this series?
Normally, hockey doesn't rate very high on my interest scale. There's certainly sports I like less than hockey. I respect how difficult hockey is to play. It just doesn't do a whole lot for me. Normally, it'd be tough to get above about a 3. I'd be like a 4 on interest, though, on a scale of 1 to 10, which means you get to like game 3 or 4, and it's not a blowout series. I don't know if I would sit down and watch an entire game from start to finish. I could certainly watch the third period if it's close, maybe even the second and the third period. Also, if it's on while I'm at work, I won't have any problem. And you probably won't. Maybe you'll get the answer to this. Do you know what one of my 5 favorite 1980s movies is?
Slapshot?
Predator.
Predator, okay.
Nashville. Insane.
Good enough. Good enough, I'd say. Who do you like to win this series?
I just said Nashville, Predators, and 6.
Predators in 6. I don't mind who wins it. I'll say Pittsburgh wins. It goes all 7 games. All 7 games. I'll be interested to see what games are on the big NBC, what games are on the little NBC. I was going to say don't.
If it goes.
Yeah.
Or go ahead.
I was going to say don't be stunned when you turn on ABC here these next couple of weeks and actually see a basketball game on ABC, a nationally televised basketball game on a national network. Don't be stunned when this happens because I don't know, boy, maybe a Sunday game is all you've gotten. I don't know. I'd be shocked if ABC's broadcast more than 5 or 6 playoff games this season. I'd be stunned. Game 1's Monday.
If it goes 7 games.
Yes.
Who's more excited if it goes 7 games? Predators or this is going off your prediction of the Penguins in 7. The Predators for getting to 7 games. The Penguins for winning the series. Or Stacken for Penguins.
Pittsburgh for winning the series? I'll go, if that's an option, Pittsburgh for winning the deal. Stacken's got a cup he drinks out of apparently, and so of course Stacken thinks that matters. So he'll take a sip out of the cup, and good things will happen. Like we're fucking 10 years old here, but I think that's the way it's going to go. What I do like is that NHL has the perfect schedule. Game, day off, game. 2 days between travel, game, day off, game. 2 days because you travel, then game. 2 days off because you travel and game. So it's the perfect. I believe it's the perfect setup right here. And there's got to be. You would assume there's maybe 1 or 2 games where maybe the hockey and the basketball are on at the same time. Maybe there isn't. But you'd assume at least one time they would possibly overlap. Fine, let's see. Games 2 and 3 are on little NBC. So game 1 and game 4 and after is on NBC. So that's your schedule right there. You like Predators in 6. I like Penguins in 7. And I like Twins here, 2 on, tie game, 9th inning, 3-2 count, 2 outs, 5-5. They walked. Good. Very good, Twins. Good. What do you make of the Twins? You kicked
the Twins got walked to first base, or the Twins walked to the other team to first base?
Tampa Bay walked. Tampa Bay's got the bases loaded, so it's not good. What do you make of the baseball thus far? We've talked a lot about the Twins in the chat, talked a lot about the Rockies in the chat, and I like the Rockies. Arizona, they were not good last year after making all their moves and trades. and Arizona's good now. What do you make of the Twins and the Rockies? Kind of the two, I'd say by far, two most surprising teams. Any of them going to beat? I think they're both there at the end. I think the Rockies make the playoffs. I think the Twins probably don't. Rockies Twins talk.
I know. I don't know a great deal about either. I know less about the Rockies just because none of you guys are diehard Rockies fans. Although since Amon's in Denver, we do get a little extra Rockies stuff slipped in some. I guess I would agree that I think the Rockies are more likely to make the playoffs. I think I'm more surprised that the Twins are doing this well. I would not have expected them to be in first place when it's basically almost July. I remember they were really, really bad last year. And I guess I haven't looked at the baseball analytics. I would assume some of it is that last year they were maybe just a little unlucky times, and some of this is mean, and some of it is just being, the other way of instead of not catching breaks. And also, I've got some guys that are just playing and I still feel like the Indians are going to find a way to win the division with each passing week or so. I kind of think, maybe that won't happen. But I don't know. It's still early in the season. I do hope that the Twins will win enough games so that Traxler works with has to get his haircut.
Depending outcome of this series, Twins are 7 games ahead of 7 games over 500. They're another strike here away from getting out of the inning, tied to the bottom of the 9th. Let's see. Yeah, Cleveland. They're 2 games up on Cleveland.
Is it calling them the Cardiac Twins, or do we have to wait till like July to start calling them that?
They haven't had a whole lot of. Had a couple exciting finishes here. I'd say the biggest.
Maybe it's just been that whenever I put the baseball roundup together at work, it's always like, the Twins won 3-2 in a close game. Maybe it's just been happenstance the years or the days I have to take care of that at work.
Maybe there's more than I realize. Year after day. 2-2 pitch, 3-2 pitch. Fuck, dude. Throw a fucking strike. Let's see.
So we got the bases count in a tied game in the top of the 9th.
It's all the making. It's all the ingredients. Their closer threw 34 pitches. He gave up 2 runs. Only got 2 outs.
Which I always say that when that happens, that means the next 2 pitches, which should be the payoff pitches, will inevitably be foul balls then.
And they bring in this other guy to pitch 11 pitches. So this will be pitch number 46 of the half inning for Twins pitchers. The 46th pitch. 3-2 pitch. Swing and a miss, strike 3 on a 99-mile-an-hour fastball. To the 9th we go, Charlie. To the 9th. It's got all the makings for Buxton to swing and miss at multiple pitches. I believe he's at 195 or so. He's getting close to 200. I did give him a 200 batting average. I want to see him hit 200 by June 1st. It's going to come down to the wire. Going to be awfully, awfully close here. See if you can get somewhere.
Much like the trivia last week, it's going to come down to the very, very end.
I hope he's hitting like 198 on Wednesday night against Houston, and it comes down to the last end. But if he gets a hit, it's 200. If it doesn't, no.
Let's compare him to his closest historic. We hope it comes down to like Ted Williams' season.
Oh, yes.
It's the final day doubleheader, and it's like, you know what? I can sit out and it'd round up to 200, but you know what? I'm going to play. I'm going to play, and I'm going to get that 3 for 4 or whatever it is. Really show everybody that I can get to 200.
And the best part of that
is... I guess that would make him half as good as Ted Williams.
Yeah, the best part about it is that Ted Williams literally hit at least his average was twice as good. 2 times better than you can double Byron Buxton's average right now, and you still wouldn't get within 10 percentage points of what Ted Williams hit in 1941. So he's trying, folks. He's trying. 9th inning coming up. That should be a whole hell of a lot of fun. If Stacken makes it here, we got probably 20 minutes left or so. He got on the thing again. We talked about this years ago. Years ago we talked about he felt like hockey players were like the first or second best athletes of any sport, and I would go more with like athletes. Basketball players are pretty good athletes. Just I mean, decathlon, heptathlon people are the most because they're running, they're doing the most things. The running, the throwing, they're doing the most things different. Instead of just doing one thing, they're doing a variety of things, and they're doing it at a world class level. So I would put like those guys up there quite a ways as well, and any guys like a Bo Jackson that can excel at a high level at multiple sports should go high on the list. And you were
I
saying,
would say football players, if you take away quarterbacks, offensive linemen, and just leave everybody else, you could probably put. I mean, I guess this is also like when it comes to athleticism and being a good athlete, it depends if you want to count like strength and power also. Because I mean, there's some guys that are incredibly like fast and explosive athletes, but are weak also. Like this would be, if you're, I don't know, if you're running, if you're doing the 400, you probably have good leg strength. I don't know if you have other kinds of strength, but I don't know. I guess that was just my.
Well, I would say
if you want to go speed and power, like it would be, that's where you're going, like not just really athletic wing players in the NBA or undersized wideouts in the NFL. Now you're starting to talk like pass rushing defensive ends, like tight ends that are really athletic, outside linebackers, the guys more like LeBron in the NBA where, I mean, they're athletic and tall, but they have strength also.
As far as greatest athletes, I would say I would start with LeBron one, and then go from there and see if anybody could top LeBron. Usain Bolt can run very fast in a short distance. Could he do anything else? Could he catch a ball? Could he throw a thing, or is he just fast? Byron Buxton would seem to be a very good athlete. He is very fast. He can catch things. His arm is good enough. It's not great. It's not terrible. His arm to me, seems to be he's fairly accurate. Maybe an above-average arm. Obviously, he cannot hit. So that takes away from him a little bit, but he's very fast. I don't know how strong he is because he weighs 180 pounds, so he looks very frail. So with the strength component, that would be the Buxton synopsis on what of an athlete he is. Joe Mauer, back in the day, he was a quarterback. He was going to go to Florida State. He's also a great baseball player. So that would be, I would say that he's a pretty goddamn good athlete in that aspect. Hockey players, though. Yeah, they skate. Endurance is very good. I don't know if he's stacking his confusing endurance for being a good athlete. The Kenyans are great at the distance running.
Technical skills also. I think great technical skill, great toughness.
They're tough. They can shoot the puck. The goalies can stop the shots. Good for them. Would you call the marathon runners from Kenya great athletes? They can run. They're obviously, look like jockeys out there as far as their stature. But would you consider them great athletes because they can run a long distance in a fast time? They seem to be very one-dimensional. I don't know if I would consider them a great athlete. They can do one thing exceptionally well. I don't know if they could bench press the bar.
I would consider marathon runners great athletes with an asterisk. Like you said, it's a very specific thing. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of times we look to team sports, because in team sports there's just more variety in what guys have to do. And inevitably in team sports there's guys that are pigeonholed to their position and can really only do that. And then there's also guys that can do multiple things really well, sort of like LeBron or a young Kevin Garnett who, was 6'11" or whatever and could have technically played like 2, 3, 4, or 5. Guys like Charles Woodson or Champ Bailey being both, especially in college, being both receivers and wideouts. Or, like the the really athletic linebacker that can pass rush and between the tackles and also cover tight ends and stuff. So I guess I would say, or at least I feel like, other than like decathletes and things like that where you have to do multiple events, I feel like team sports are the things where there's just more things you have to do. Or even like I think we could agree that you generally would think of football or basketball players as better athletes than baseball players.
Yeah.
But there's still plenty of baseball players. Like when you think of a five-tool player, like Ken Griffey Jr. or Barry Bonds now, that those guys are. I think there's some guys in baseball that maybe aren't as good of athletes as some people, guys like Trout or who are good at everything. Like if you're good at everything in your sport, you've got to be a pretty good athlete.
That makes sense. Hockey is very difficult, the skating aspect, and you're basically it's like a normal person on feet, except they're on ice and they can do anything that you can do on the ground on ice. So that's very impressive. It's a very impressive skill. I don't know if that makes you a great athlete. It's a good skill to have. Like bowling's a very good skill if you're a good bowler or a good golfer. Good for you. I don't know if that makes you a good athlete. There's really not a lot of movement in golf or bowling. You're just kind of standing there swinging or hitting or whatever the hell you're doing. So, yeah, I don't know really exactly what.
I would give hockey players more credit than like bowlers or golfers, just because there's more movements than those. But I would sort of agree.
But
I think part of it is that it's just like you see. Part of it is that in South Dakota, and we both grew up in South Dakota, there's not a lot of hockey fans. I didn't grow up with any. The only kids I knew that really liked hockey and like playing hockey past like fourth grade were kids that moved to our town from Minnesota, basically. So I don't have as much of like a comparison of like, oh yeah, this kid that I knew that played hockey was also great at these other sports. Where I remember guys in high school, whether from my high school or playing other high schools that played all the sports, or guys in college that maybe don't make the pros but play two sports in college. Some of them even get to, guys like Julius Peppers, he didn't play two sports in the pros but played two sports in college. So you can kind of see that. And I can't think of anybody that has played hockey and done something else at the same time or made the switch or anything like that. So I just don't have a great point of comparison.
I'm sure you'd agree with this.
And I think hockey players are good athletes. I don't think it's the sport. Like I would, like decathletes, I think the average hockey player to the average other sport. And this is in no specific order, but I'd have football, basketball, decathletes, boxers, and UFC fighters all ahead of hockey.
I'd put that there. And with hockey, I'm sure you'd agree with this. A lot of the time, it's like they're just shooting the puck. There's like there is skill involved, but a lot of the time they're just shooting the goddamn thing. Do they know where it's going? They know it's going at the fucking goal. I mean, the goalie's there. It's like, yeah, I'm going top shelf here from 30 yards out. Yeah, you're just shooting the thing. Hope it gets deflected. Hope one of your teammates can do the fucking thing. Let's not be like we're.
My guess is that there's probably some guys that are like, no, I'm specifically trying to do this. Boom. But yeah, I think with more often than not, with most of them, it's the equivalent of someone having the ball at half court with half second left in a basketball game. It's like whether you're the great shooter or a power forward or a center that's never supposed to shoot beyond feet. You're like, all right, I got to put this up now because otherwise it's the end. So.
Do you consider Memorial Day to be the end of the sports year, basically? You have whether any baseball in the area is wrapped up for high schoolers through high school. Track and field meet was in Sioux Falls yesterday, wrapped up the spring season. School is out. All you have now is baseball and the final 2 weeks of basketball and hockey. So if you were to basically, when you think about it, the sports year basically goes by the school year. School begins, football begins, school ends, your track and field and baseball and whatever else you have going on, that ends. And then you get 3 months off here.
The funny thing for us is like baseball and softball just started like last week. So it's like, so track and field ends.
It started?
And then baseball and softball start.
Oh, goddamn.
Yeah, they just started.
That's unfortunate.
Now the downside for baseball and softball is they have to squeeze a whole bunch of games into a, I think, than the other ones, because I think they're done. I'm almost positive they're done by. So, I mean, you're talking the season's like a month long.
This is what do you talk as far as softball, baseball? What high school level or what affiliation?
Yeah, this is the high school level.
Okay. We wrapped it up on this weekend with the state tournament, and then the Legion, American Legion play starts. It's already started. So it's basically your spring season baseball, your summer season baseball. So they'll play like 30 games each season for like a total of 60, and this will go on until like the beginning of August. So that's the baseball right there. Any final thoughts? Anything we missed? Anything we forgot to touch on with the championships coming up? Did you see?
Just for fun.
Yes.
And maybe I was just going to say we should think of like the sports we think where they're better athletes than hockey players,
all of
and
them?
come up with like the best. No, I was going to say like come up with the sports that are better. I mean, not all of them, but just like the 5 or 6 we mentioned. Come up with who's the best athlete in the sport right now, and then like who's the best athlete, like period,
Ever?
in the sport. Yeah. Just because there's a lot of different ways you could take it. I mean, like football, you could go with like somebody who's, you know, a defensive back that's 5'10" and 100. You could go with like Deion Sanders because he's fast, or you could go with someone who was maybe a tad bit slower, but like a lot
bigger,
stronger and stuff too. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't. But for baseball, like I think all of the guys I would imagine that are going to be the best athletes are going to be like outfielders for the most part. The two that jumped into my head first were like Barry Bonds and Willie Mays.
Yeah, see what people would bring to the table there as far as current guys that like Stacken. Like if you ask Stacken, who are the best hockey like I don't know. Like Ovechkin and Crosby are known as the 2 best players. There's a couple of really good.
So I know that they're the best players. I don't know if they're the best athletes or not.
I know there's a couple of good. Really.
I think the other thing that doesn't help the NHL and hockey is that it's like it's been mentioned. Like I don't follow hockey that closely, but I've heard this at least like 10 different places. That Wayne Gretzky, while probably the greatest hockey player ever, if not the best, certainly one of the 3 or 4 best, that like nobody was ever like, oh wow, look how great this guy is, look how great of an athlete he is, and how good he is, and all this stuff. He was just like he was very technically sound and skilled, but not like, wow, look how fast this guy can skate and do this stuff that nobody else can do. He was just like 3 steps ahead of everyone else.
If you've got some speed, that's good for. If you can weave your way in and out of defenders, that's really good. On a breakaway, that would impress me a lot. So I'd be interested in Stacken's thoughts on who the best, and I would assume that he would say just the most well-known players. I don't know if he's going to pick out some random guy out there. I'm not sure. So we can do that, yeah.
And then we don't need to take like forever to do this. But I mean, I'm just like Mike Trout in baseball.
He'd be good. Yeah, he'd be a good guy for baseball. Yeah, he'd be. I think a shortstop would be another good position, non-infield position, a shortstop.
Yeah, that's true. If you're going to go with an infield, yeah, I'd probably shortstop.
Shortstop would be good. LeBron in basketball, obviously, and I'd have no problem putting him number 1 all time. For football, I'd maybe lean towards a Randy Moss. He was pretty good. He could jump.
Interesting that you say Moss. I think Moss is a really good one. You could almost go by. I was thinking, and you'll understand when I say this guy definitely was not as fast as Randy Moss. But I was going to say somebody like Lawrence Taylor, maybe.
Yep.
Just when you combine like everything together. And I don't even know who you would say is like the best athlete now because it's just there's more variance. There's more positions than the other sports have, with 11 on the field at the time, 22 total, and that there's just so much different stuff. I mean, I don't know.
Lawrence Taylor.
If Calvin Johnson was still playing, it would be easy to say Calvin Johnson, but he's retired now.
Lawrence Taylor also main evented WrestleMania 11 versus Bam Bam Bigelow. So add that to your pile of.
How would Stacken feel whether he comes on at the very end of this show now or next week when we say Stacken not only are hockey players, but professional wrestlers are better athletes than hockey players?
I'd go with that. I'd argue that with them. That'd be fine. What else was? How about a J.J. Watt?
Yeah, J.J. Watt would be a good answer. That's going more for the high end of like turning speed and mass into power.
Like Adrian Peterson is a very fast and did you hear his handshake is terrible. It's just the goddamnest handshake you've ever seen in your life. So he'd be obviously he can't catch the ball or he fumbles a lot and he can't do anything but run, but he can do that very well. And obviously people think that
who would win in a fight, Adrian Peterson's hand or Mike Zimmer's infected eye?
You can't kill that eye. It's been 8 surgeries since the fall, for Christ's sake. 8 surgeries in less than 8 months. The guy, I have no doubt in my mind, he's not having an eye. Whether it's by the time the season starts or by the end of the year. His eye will be deemed useless. He'll have a patch for the rest of his life. And I don't know if quitting football is really going to improve that situation. I don't know if it would improve it at all. I mean, it's an eye. It's basically fucked. So that's the way that goes for him. And I would say people, you know what, the top 100 athletes that are top 50 athletes, whatever the hell ESPN did 15 years ago or so. Jordan was one.
Oh, the Sports Century thing?
Yeah.
Jordan. I really like that. I don't watch as much ESPN as I used to. I would watch another of the Sports Century list, though.
Jordan, I'm sure they'll do another one if they're around in another 50 years. Definitely 100 years. They could update that list. Jordan was 1, I believe. I think Muhammad Ali was 2. Babe Ruth was 3. I think those were your top 3. I don't know how many people are calling
that's what it was.
Babe Ruth a great athlete, but he was one of the best pitchers ever and maybe the best hitter ever. So that's got to be worth something right there. And people, I don't know where Bo Jackson was on that list or if he even was on the list. I think part of it was
I do remember that the horse Secretariat was on the list.
Well, I would say it's more the most accomplished athletes would be a better thing to put in the most accomplished.
How dominant were you in your specific sport?
And that would be a better way to go if we're putting horses near the top 10 of this list. So there we go. So we got that coming up here, and 4 hours into this Twins game, 4 hours. Teams have combined to leave 21 men on base. It's not been a good game. It's not been a well played.
What's the score of that game?
Tampa Bay Twins 10th inning 5-5. This started at 1:10. We're at 5:23. We're 4 hours and 15 minutes into this game with no end in sight.
So basically, you're saying if this was the Texas A&M Tennessee football game from last year, there's like 7 minutes left in the third quarter right now.
Basically, yes. A 5-hour game will not end. Speaking of that, Tennessee was playing A&M in college softball here. I'm sure this game was over by now. It started at 2 o'clock. It doesn't take 3.5 hours to play softball. Lots of softball on. They're doing it big with the softball here with the super regionals. So there we go. Sports Lounge 219. We'll catch you next week here. Stacken might be back. We'll debate hockey athletes, and we'll do this, and I'm sure we'll fucking do it again 5 years from now as well, because he'll say he understands and whatever. But he'll go back to his old ways. He'll just say, "Yep," just to end the conversation. Then we'll have to have the same fucking conversation another goddamn 3 years from now and say, "Oh, remember when we did this? This is the third time." We gotta have another blog intervention 10 years later. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. One final question for you on the political scale, since I'm obviously what's going on, I think is just interesting as fuck. Where would you put the whole, whatever the fuck you want to call it? What inning are we in this thing? Whether the end of it is an impeachment or the end of it is whatever the fuck, whenever this stuff ends. If they go through a trial type thing and they found out, well, we can't get them for anything, so we're done with this. Where do you think we're at as far as an inning of baseball?
For the Trump presidency?
Whether it's the presidency or just, because I'm of the opinion of he will stay in office all 4 years, and there's a possibility he could be reelected, I feel. Because with as I said in the chat, the Republican control of Congress, the votes are not there, and I see no reason why Republicans would vote him out. Things are not good, and I just don't see them ever doing that.
I would generally agree that I think he will probably finish his first term, and then things can always change. You never know. As of now, I would say I think it's unlikely he would get reelected, but you never know. Everybody thought that Hillary would win in November, so
yes,
it's always a little unpredictable. I think a lot of times people like to be prisoner of the moment, and especially when you look at like Twitter or Facebook, where they're more like echo chambery, and it's a small portion or percentage of the population and not the population as a whole. It seems like, especially on Twitter, there's times, and I have fallen victim to this, like not as much in politics, but in sports, where it's like, oh my God, this is a huge deal. And then you talk to, someone at work who's 40 and doesn't have Twitter, and they're like, no, I didn't even know about that at all. And you realize that, that's not everybody. So I think that he will probably finish his term. We'll have below 50%, won't get reelected. And it'll just be that thing that, like, 30 years from now, people like, got that.
Oh, the internet went out. What are we doing, internet? Repeat that last part. So you cut out. He won't get reelected. Something about 50%.
Oh, that he'll have an approval rating well below 50%, yes. And then that just like 20 to 30 years from now, it'll be that thing. It'll just be like, oh yeah, I forgot he was president. Like I think we have this thing partially because of like the media and how it's changed, and there's more access, and there's 24-hour news, that it's sort of like I know that FDR and Truman and I guess even Eisenhower were president, but in a lot of ways, like it really started to change with like Kennedy and him being on TV. And I think there's a lot of presidents before FDR that were presidents for 4 years and then just were gone, and you didn't hear much about them again. And I just get the sense that that's going to be sort of what it's like with Trump. I don't have anything great to base that off of. It'll just be that thing. And then, when we're in our 50s or 60s, someone will be like, I don't know, it'll be like, oh, what? Like your grandkids being like, Donald Trump was famous before he was president. Will be like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. You know what? Let's talk about something else, because I don't want to explain to you, kid, all the stuff that led to this. It's an incredibly complicated scenario.
Be like How I Met Your Mother. He goes 10 seasons.
People calling on phones, and people giving the wrong information, and nobody liked anybody on either side, and everyone just wanted it to end and be over with.
I think we're in the third.
And it was October. We got the election in November.
And there were 4 more years. That was season 1. That was season 1 of 5 seasons.
Yeah, season 1 was 4 months before it all even started.
Yeah. I think we're in the 3rd inning of whatever this is. We're in the 3rd inning. We've gotten started. We're not quite to the 4th yet.
I like that you're doing it like the Ken Burns baseball thing, where it's like first inning, second inning. I kind of like that.
We're like, what was the third inning of that? Like the 1900s or the Babe Ruth era, maybe 1920s, maybe even before that.
Whole thing. I know that the first inning was basically like
how the game
first
was invented.
30 years of baseball, and I think it was either the third or the fourth inning where he got to like Babe Ruth in the 20s.
People you've
actually heard of. He got to some
of.
point where it was basically they started moving more years early, and by the end of it, it was essentially like, you know, the ninth inning is like the 90s, and the eighth inning is the 80s, I think, from what I remember,
basically. Right? And the current one was like 10.
I don't know. It's good. It's on Netflix. I liked it. It's worth watching. It's really long, though. There are parts of it that really slog early on in the 1800s where you're like, I don't even know who any of these guys are. And basically, once it gets to Babe Ruth, it really starts picking up because it's like, oh, I know these guys that they're talking about now.
There we go. And they updated it here a couple of years ago with like the 10th inning, 2 or 3. Was it 2 parts maybe? 10th inning of the past.
Yeah, they have the Red Sox.
Barry Bonds.
And I think the two things, and the steroids, those were the big things they talked about. Because I remember watching it thinking, hey, they're going to talk about how my White Sox won the World Series. There was like one line where they're like, oh yeah, also, as the Red Sox won it, the White Sox won it for the first time. Anyways, back to steroids. And I was kind of sad.
I do like that the White Sox won it 1 year before Boston in 1917. Then Boston won it in 1918. Everybody was like, oh, Boston and the curse and all this shit. And then they win it, and then the year after the White Sox win it, when the White Sox actually had to wait 2 years longer to win it, the whole thing from start to finish. And nobody gave a shit because
nobody cared at all.
Because the White Sox didn't have
the White Sox rolled through it, and they beat a mediocre Astros. I think they swept the Astros. Maybe it was 5 games.
Because Boston had gotten so close so many times, and the White Sox were like, all right, we're just going to be good this 1 year, and we'll win the whole goddamn thing. Also
it was a weird White Sox team, too. Like, I don't know if they had any, like, great players. They had, like, 7 or 8 good players or guys who were decent that had, like, career years. And then they had 2 or 3, I mean, like, I don't even know. Like, Mark Burley was maybe their best pitcher.
They didn't have a great record.
Mark Burley's good.
They did win 99 games. So that is really good. Mark Burley was their best pitcher. They had Freddie Garcia, John Garland. Yeah. Jose Contreras. Orlando Hernandez. They had 2 Cubans on the deal.
Man, I watched a lot. I maybe watched more White Sox games that year than any other year of my life. I don't even remember Orlando Hernandez.
Let's see.
I remember Paul Konerko and Jermaine Dye. Scott Pasednik.
They didn't have a...
Aaron Rowan broke his face running center field. That maybe wasn't that year, but that happened to him.
They didn't have some great standout player. They had a lot of good players. Paul Konerko was probably their best player. You mentioned Aaron Rowan, Jermaine Dye, Przinsky, Juan Uribe, Scott Pasednik, Joe Crede. Frank Thomas played a few games, 34 games. Some guy that I could
compare. Didn't Juan Uribe get in trouble for killing someone in South America? Do we know what happened with that?
I don't think so. Maybe it's somebody else. He was playing. This is the first year he has not played. He played with Cleveland last year as a 37-year-old. I don't think he killed a guy. I don't think. And maybe another guy died.
Mixed up with it. Juan Uribe as a White Sox fan was maybe the most frustrating player, where it was just like, I'm going to swing for a home run every at bat, and I'm going to hit like 26 home runs. I'm going to bat like 220 and strike out about so many times.
Looking at this White Sox roster here, I've come up with a good baseball trivia question, a good one. I feel like it's a very good question for a later date that would probably be more relevant during the playoffs or the World Series. Maybe I'll use it here pretty soon. But a baseball trivia question, which I'll be excited to put together And the question will be stern and tough, but not tough enough to where you cannot give a logical answer to it. So there we go. I'm going to have as much fun putting it together as you guys are going to have trying to answer the question. So there we go. Also, don't forget about Carl Everett.
Carl Everett. I kind of liked Carl Everett. I forgot about him, but yeah, he was fairly good.
He may have killed a man.
Well, he was like all those guys. They had a whole bunch of guys that were fine, like 5 that were good but not great, and the guys that were fine just stepped up when they needed to. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a comparison in another sport.
The Pistons?
I mean, I don't mean to. I don't. Yeah. That's good. That's probably the best one. Like that Pistons team that won it in 04.
Maybe the Spurs.
Maybe sort of, kind of like. This isn't perfect, but sort of like Drew's Bucks team that won it. Now the difference was the Bucks were great on defense and awful on offense.
Yeah.
But
they also
just
had.
Like, oh yeah, that team won. That's right, that did happen. I forgot about that. How'd they win, anyways?
And they killed it. It wasn't even close. They killed folks in the playoffs. Won 99 games. Nobody touched them in the playoffs. One guy I forgot about.
I think they lost once in the ALCS to the Angels, and that was their only loss the whole playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they beat Seattle in the first round?
I think they beat Boston in the first round.
Yep. They had a second baseman.
My roommate was a Red Sox fan, and I laughed because the White Sox swept them.
They had a second baseman, finished 4th in the Rookie of the Year. Tad Iguchi from Japan. I completely forgot about him.
Tadahito Iguchi?
Yes.
I forgot about that guy.
Who, one of those guys who his best year was his first year as a 30-year-old rookie. So there you go.
And don't forget, every Twins' all-time favorite player, AJ Pierzynski at catcher.
They hate him. For whatever reason, they hate this goddamn guy. Yeah. So there we go. Trivia question. I'm very excited. I might be so excited to put it. I'll put it together now, but to share it next week. It'd be good to have 3 people. Obviously, one person here cheats. His name's David Schottenkirk. So if it was you, Stack, and
well, I know there have been times that we've all been excited to put together trivia questions. Like, where is this like in your 3 most excited to put it together ones?
I'm excited about it because, like I said, you could take an educated guess. You need to know something, and if you know that, then you'll know this. And you may not. You probably won't 100% know the answer for any of them, but you'll have a pretty good shot. If I give you 2 or 3 guesses, you probably get the correct answer in there somewhere, and this will probably be a game where I'll probably. I think, giving you 1 strike would be good, and last man standing. Or I also like the new, I give, Stacking credit for coming up with the system, and the one that Marcus used last week for multiple points for multiple years or whatever. Or having it be in, there's 3 answers you can give per year or question, and you get, 1 point, 2 point, 3 points. Everybody's in it till the end. There's 20 answers or whatever.
Yeah, at this point, we've done so many of them. It's just the ones that are more unique, more fun and memorable a lot of the times. Because, the really good, just standing at, I feel like we knocked out most of the best ones of those, like when we were still doing it as a TV show.
So, yeah, I would say it's just coming up with 3 answers for each question or year or whatever, which I think I could do. And you cut it off like 20, 30 years ago. So there you go. So we got that to look forward to. That's very exciting. Next week will be, 220? Show 220. Schottenkirk mentioned doing a best of show. We can maybe do that sometime in the future as well. So Charlie Hildebrand was here. I was here as well. Texas, Rockies. There we go. We're in the 11th. Twins. Still going. So there we go. We'll come back next week, see who won this goddamn game. And baseball picks. See if I can not finish last in the baseball picks. Amon, he's got to be dropping out pretty soon. We're getting closer to August. I give him an August 15th date. I'm just quitting the picks. So we'll see how that goes. And one more thing as far as the the Twins and the haircut thing are concerned, I'll show you a picture of this guy who's probably going to have to shave his head. And if you knew him and if you saw his picture, it'd make it all the better. Because as I said, it looks like he's a Mad Men character from 1962 with the nice hair. So it makes it all the more tragic. It's not like Stacken or somebody. No, this is the real deal. This is nice hair that's going to get chopped off pretty soon here. So that'll do it. Lounge 219. We'll see you next week. First one of June. We'll see the first game of the NBA Finals, for Christ's sake.